As I said, those videos or that video wasn't to alarm you, it's just to alert you, make you aware of the signs that made places like Iran topple once disturbance of the peace was brought about due to the radicalism that came out of the universities. There's a lot of history there you guys probably should look into. Started in the very same way that we see in our universities right now. And this is what I look like with makeup on. Okay, this is my serious look phase. This next topic is a very dear and sacred to me in light of the death of Charlie Kirk and seeing the revival of Christianity. I think it's also time for us to sit down and not ignore the elephant in the room. But before I start talking about it, this information is going to be useful for those who want to know and learn, not for someone to be alarmed. Um, what I mean by that is know and learn some key signals or signs to look out for, um, and to avoid these types of people when you see those types of signs. But before I dive more into this topic, I'm going to let a man who's from this culture explain it himself. I think no better way to understand a culture or way of thinking is to hear it from the people who live it every day. So without further ado, let's get into that video.
An American friend asked me, how can some Muslims celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk? A man who always said, prove me wrong. Here's what I believe and what the facts are. Charlie Kirk was assassinated, murdered because of his opinions. Many Muslims, unfortunately, didn't condemn that crime. Some even celebrated it. Yes, some praise it online, not knowing him personally, not hearing his debates, not engaging with his thoughts, but simply delighted at death. This isn't what spiritual Islam teaches. I've spent much of my life studying the Bible, not to mention that I memorized the Quran at a young age. I love the Bible deeply. I love biblical history so much, something we have in common, me and Charlie Kirk. So when people say, Charlie criticized Prophet Muhammad or he insulted Islam, my question is, why don't Muslim scholars debate him? Why not engage with his views? Show where you think he's wrong. Use logic, scripture, history. For example, when someone says Prophet Muhammad was a warmonger, you can answer he pardoned his enemies when he entered Mecca. He forgave those who exiled him. That is a story of mercy. But too often in the West, many Muslim preachers do not do that. They do not debate. They don't correct with knowledge. They react with threats, with insults, or silencing their rivals. Not to mention that many of them are Muslim Brotherhood preachers. And in that void, radical Islam grows. It fills with extremism, with hate. The ugly face becomes what people think as Islam. Charlie was afraid of Islam. Many are, because what they see now is radical Islam masquerading as faith. Radical Islamists, they use blackmail, extremism, extortion, not mercy, not peace. And when Muslims celebrate his death, it proves how evil this ideology has turned some hearts. And they are proving Charlie right. The truth is, the Quran invites dialogue. It invites decent debate. ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن.
For those listening and can't pause the video to read, this is what he said. Invite all to the way of your Lord with wisdom and kind advice, and only debate with them in the best manner. Surely your Lord alone knows best who has strayed from his way and who is rightly guided.
Radical Islam doesn't believe in that verse. Radical Islam believes if you disagree, I'll threaten you. If you cannot be threatened, I'll silence you. I'll blackmail you. But real spiritual Islam, it believes in peace, in knowledge, in mercy. So to those who think celebrating his death is okay, realize you're not only despising Kirk, you're showing yourself that you've surrendered to hate. Let us instead align with moderate voices. Let's believe in debate, not threats. Let's respect others, regardless of opinions, as long as they are peaceful. Because kindness, truth, and courage, that is what real faith looks like. An American friend asked me, how can some Muslims celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk? A man who always said, prove me wrong. Here's what I believe. And
So I bring all of this up, and I'm glad he decided to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of what I want to talk about because um, my experience being over in the Middle East over these past couple of years, 2.5 years, is like actually the first 2 years I was in Kuwait and Iraq, Erbil to be exact. And then the other half of the year, the last part, the other part of that 2.5 years, I lived in Belgium. I am an IT person, software developer, and an infrastructure person, something I just like to do. And I remember when I moved over to the Middle East, I was actually really scared because when we landed, they said we weren't going to be staying on the base. Civilians actually had to live out in the city. We had to come up with our own accommodations. And I was scared. I did not read the contract thoroughly because back in the day at the height of the war, between Iraq and everything, all of the civilians that did get stationed in Kuwait to work, a lot of them mostly lived on the base. So that's what I thought would happen to me as well. I would be assigned some billeting. That was not the case. So, yeah, I was scared because of what I experienced being indoctrinated in the military. Not for 9/11, though. Muslims never hurt me, but before I joined the military. But when I joined the military and I went overseas, yes, I did see children blowing themselves up to kill soldiers. Children. I saw the same with women. This is something that is very real. To ignore it and to act like this element doesn't exist in Islam is a lie, especially when we have open borders. We're letting in individuals from this part of the world into our country and acting as if they are all asylum seekers and refugee seekers without any hidden agenda. It is reckless, it is dangerous, and it's something that we should try to avoid without discrimination. But that's going to kind of be, if I'm going to be honest, it's going to kind of be hard about it because you can't ignore the reality of this happening in that group, but you also can't ignore the reality that there's people in this group who want nothing to do with this. This next video that I'm about to display, this is not a display of faith. This is a display of dominance. This is not a display of we are refugees or asylum seekers or that we come in peace. This is a display of dominance, and it's only a matter of time until they attack.
Muslims stormed the streets of London chanting Allahu Akbar with their hoods up, balaclavas and baseball bats.
And now there's people with like balaclavas and bats
to counter-protest against an anti-terrorism march. Wait, so if they're counter-protesting against an anti-terrorism march, does that mean they're for terrorism? No face, no case, am I right? Intimidate and threaten the local community and conceal your identity to get away with it.
No face, no case. If you guys need it, £5 each.
One Muslim even shoved a leftist stand-up to racism protester, to which the leftist said, "We're on the same side, bro." The Muslim said, "No, we're not."
There's no need for that. We're on the same side, bro. No, we're not. Yes, we are, bro.
So now that we have video proof that Islam isn't on the left side or the right side, and it's its own sectarian category, can we realize that maybe now it's becoming a threat? And oh yeah, can I get two sides of Muslims in my comment section defending Muslims storming through the streets of London with baseball bats dressed in black? Oh yeah, and Bangladesh is a way better country than the UK, even though they're flying the Bangladesh flag in the UK, but they don't want to go back to Bangladesh. But even though it's more expensive to live in the UK than Bangladesh, and moving back to Bangladesh will save you money, but you still want to live in the UK. But yeah, Bangladesh is way better.
As I said, those videos or that video wasn't to alarm you, it's just to alert you, make you aware of the signs that made places like Iran topple once disturbance of the peace was brought about due to the radicalism that came out of the universities. There's a lot of history there you guys probably should look into. started in the very same way that we see in our universities right now.